Okay,
Just go with it. Something
just go
broke.
with it. All right, something broke. All right. Well, aloha, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're trying out some new equipment and new systems, and um, the gremlins are gremlining around here. So it's Friday, September 20th, 2019. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And we've got lots to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phones, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. Today is also Storm Area 51 Day, and it's turned into this 3-day music festival in these two tiny Nevada towns that are close to Area 51's fence. And when I say tiny, the combined population of these two towns is something like 127 people. And they don't even have a gas station. You have to drive 50 miles to get a gas, to get your car filled up. And they're concerned about too many people showing up simply because they don't really have the facilities to take care of them. And apparently, reports from the scene is that uh, a lot of people are just showing up unprepared to be camping out in the desert. They're in flip flops and shorts. It gets very cold in the desert at night. And of course, you're also dealing with rattlesnakes and scorpions and things like that. So this may get ugly before it is over. They're calling it alien stock. But the last report I heard on a uh, radio news was that not that many people had actually shown up. So at the fence, I mean. So anyway, getting into more serious news here. Um, Story that came out of Zero Hedge: the triumph of candidate Trump's foreign policy, backing off disastrous war with Iran. Now, the reason they're referencing candidate Trump was when he was campaigning, he was promising we're going to get out of all these interventions. And it looks like he's intending to do so here. Of course, it may be pure politics because apparently the poll numbers for war with Iran are not good. Only 13% of Americans are in favor of a military strike with Iran. They can't sell it. They can't manufacture the consent to get this going. So the big question is, can Trump still avoid war with Iran? Well, he has for the moment. Um, But a lot of people are saying no, bad idea. Even the Senate Republicans are advising against military action in response to the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil facilities. And, he says it's very easy to attack, but if you ask Lindsey Graham, ask him how did going into the Middle East work out? How did Iraq work out? How has Syria worked out for that matter, or Afghanistan? These wars are not going well. They're lasting far longer and costing far more money than originally was planned. And at some point, the U.S. is going to start running out of stuff. They're already having ammunition shortages. When they were doing that major bombing over in Syria, that were literally flying munitions out of Hawaii's military bases to get them over there. Now, Mike Pompeo is out there basically trying to reassert that under better circumstances, the American air defense systems would have knocked those drones and missiles out of the sky. And basically, he inadvertently, along the way, admitted the Iran crisis is a direct result of Trump's actions, and that there is a straight line that you can draw from Trump's pulling out of the P5+1 deal and the risk of conflict today. And yeah, just pulling out of a deal, that was a big mistake. That was a big, big mistake, followed by other mistakes. This whole Iran thing has been one bad policy decision after another. Maybe that was Bolton's mistake, for which he got fired. Anyway, Vladimir Putin apparently made a phone call to Saudi Arabia's crown prince and said there needs to be an unbiased investigation of exactly what happened at that refinery, because the Houthis are taking credit for it still. The U.S. is claiming it was Iran. Iran has denied it. And Putin says, we need to know exactly what happened, because we really don't. I mean, everybody's guessing on this one. This is a stumper. This is a real stumper. Who did it? And the theories are all over that, it could have been the Houthis with Iranian-supplied weapons. But the Houthis have developed their own drones and cruise missiles. And this wasn't the first time they used them to attack Saudi Arabia. They have demonstrated a capability of hitting anywhere inside that country with their new weapons. They put them all on display last July. Said, look what we have built. And it doesn't make sense that Iran would have done this provocation. So was it somebody's idea of a false flag to create that pretext for war with Iran? Was it the United States? Was it Saudi Arabia itself? Was it Israel? Speaking of Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, although not for much longer, I understand, praised Donald Trump's announcement he would slap new sanctions on Iran. And Netanyahu came on out and said Iran's aggression has increased of late, including in the Gulf, and this is precisely the time to increase pressure and sanctions. I am pleased President Trump has done exactly this. So Netanyahu's all gung-ho. Yes, let's hurt the Iranians more. Hurt them bad. Do bad things. Well, it may be a little more difficult to keep the pressure on because China is investing $400 billion with a B in Iran. And that's complicating the U.S. options because China is ignoring the sanctions and they're pouring money into Iran. Now, obviously, Iran would still like the U.S. sanctions to be removed. And here we see where U.S. foreign policy continues to fail because we're driving Iran into the Chinese sphere of influence. And that's not a good thing. The United States, more and more, is being isolated in the world. The EU is sick and tired of all the wars. China is moving closer to Russia. Now Iran is moving closer to Russia and to China. Our list of friends grows thin indeed. Now, interestingly enough, over at Zero Hedge, Tom Luongo is speculating that the Yemen war could actually bring about the end of Saudi Arabia. And he's apparently taken the position that the Houthis were behind this attack. And he says, the game has changed. The game has changed. If the Houthis, in fact, have this capability, it's time to do a rethink. So, and I would tend to agree. Now, there's another opinion. This one is coming from Jim Stone, who's an investigative reporter. He's convinced it was a false flag. He's convinced that there were no missiles and drones, and that basically small charges were placed on those tanks to get them smoking. And some of his reasoning makes sense. Some of his reasoning is a little weak. But he's out there basically saying that Saudi Arabia did this to themselves, and it was a false flag. But Putin is right. We need to find out for sure what's going on. Okay. All righty. Over in Israel, Netanyahu doesn't seem to be accepting the fact that he lost this last election. And he's headed for the door. Sure, they're going to have to use a lot of sandpaper to get his fingernail marks out of the door frame, but he's headed for the door. And his time is up. His failure to form a new government after the April 9th election was strike one. His shock decision to call for a new election rather than allow Benny Gantz a chance to form a coalition government was strike two. And the disappointing performance in Tuesday's ballot, which saw Likud lose almost a quarter of the seats they previously had, was strike three. I mean, the Israelis made it very clear. They think it's time for Netanyahu to go. The question is, until the government is formed and the Knesset convenes and they hold an election for a new prime minister, Netanyahu is still prime minister. How much more damage can he do before he finally accepts the inevitable and exits? So, according to this story, Netanyahu almost launched an all-out war on Gaza to try and postpone the election. That's how desperate he was. And of course, once he's no longer prime minister, there's no reason to delay all those corruption and bribery charges. Okay, over at the New York Times, they had a big article on the Israeli election, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was given space to, race bait the group of Palestinian political parties in the campaign. The Palestinians and Arab parties had a real strong showing in this election, and they could wind up as the official opposition rather than just they sit over there by the door. And of course, the New York Times allowed Netanyahu to basically call the Palestinians as terrorists and didn't let them respond. The paper even quoted Palestinian leader Ayman Odeh, but it didn't let Odeh counter the dishonest allegation that he glorifies bloodthirsty terrorists. Alrighty. Meanwhile, back in Israel, this gets back to the category of what further damage can Netanyahu inflict. The Israeli army has raided a Palestinian non-governmental organization's office, and they raided the office of Adamir Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association. The Israelis stole 5 laptops, memory cards, 3 laptop memories, 1 laptop card, several books, and basically trashed the office in the process of searching through it. And this is the 3rd time that they have raided this office. And it's not like this NGO is doing anything bad. Netanyahu just doesn't like them. Also, up in the Jordan Valley, Israeli occupation forces closed the water pipes which supply Palestinian residents in the village of Bardale in the northern Jordan Valley east of the occupied West Bank. And member of the Bardala Village Council, Dirar Sawafta, said the Israeli forces stormed the village in the early morning and closed a number of pipes which supply the area without mentioning any reasons for doing so. Al-Ray Palestinian Media Agency further notes that this is not the first time Israeli forces have closed the pipes. Last July, Israeli settlers seized a number of wells in the village, banning Palestinian shepherds from tending their livestock. So it's just more harassment and more suffering. But again, what can Netanyahu do between now and the day he finally accepts the fact that he's no longer prime minister? Meanwhile, over in Washington, D.C., Congress is once again trying to pass a bill attacking free speech by declaring that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic and it's rooted in Jewish hate, which is like saying that the only reason people criticize the Nazis is they just hate the German people. And it's silly, but Israel has gotten away with this nonsense for 60 years. Over in China, and I expect we'll see something similar here, journalists in Chinese state media are being tested on their loyalty to President Xi Jinping. And apparently it's being done with a mobile app with sections on Xi's political thinking and Marxism. And only those who pass this test, this loyalty test, will be issued press cards. Now, here in the United States, of course, it's handled a little more informally. If you work for a corporate media outlet and you use Israelis and Palestinian children in the same sentence, it'll cost you your job. That is still the unwritten rule of American corporate media. Thou shalt not criticize Israel no matter what. All right, North Korea is rolling out the welcome mat. They're saying it's time for a new method from the U.S. in the nuclear talks. And basically what they're saying is they think that things are going to go a lot better now that Bolton is gone. Apparently they couldn't work with Bolton. Bolton was just being too demanding. Of course, Bolton didn't want the peace talks to work. He wanted the U.S. to go on in and blow the place up. And getting into our domestic politics here, Bill de Blasio has officially withdrawn from the 2020 presidential race. And New Yorkers are absolutely unconsolable because now he's coming home. We're hoping he was going to be somebody else's problem for a while. Okay, CNN's Martin Savage traveled to the Iron Range area of Minnesota. Now, this is typically a Democratic stronghold. And traditionally, it's always been Democratic, but not anymore. Miners and working families are voting for Donald Trump. A little bit of good news. Democrats are trying to flip some districts, but some districts are flipping back the other way here. Speaking of CNN, apparently their staffers have a problem with the newest member of their staff, Andrew McCabe, claiming that he erodes CNN's journalistic credibility, which they don't really have any anyway. Apparently they don't like him, and I am still waiting for an indictment against McCabe. And I'm getting a feeling it's not really coming here. All right, well, if you're watching the TV news, you've probably seen a lot of smoke, if you will, about this mystery whistleblower complaint. And this was an intelligence official who blew the whistle. We don't know what he's actually said. We don't know who the whistleblower is. It's all very hush-hush. But the Democrats are out there saying, oh, there's got to be something in there that would really put the screws to Donald Trump. And so they're desperate to basically get the whistleblower complaint with Adam Schiff threatening a lawsuit against the Trump administration. And he's out there saying that he wants to get like a restraining order, wants the documents preserved. He's out there saying this has to be rushed through the courts. This can't wait for, a long court case. But again, nobody really knows what's in there. But there's a lot of speculation. Apparently involves a foreign leader who may be Ukrainian. More about that when we come back from these commercials.
Corporate corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
So, are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all natural, all organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443, 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go to the phones. They're loading up here, and we're going to start with Jim in Illinois. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Before I get to the whistleblower, today the Federal Reserve, they came out and stated they are going to be giving banks more money up until October 10th of this year. And
Yes.
The money that they're talking about is $1.3 trillion, and that's more than what they gave the banks back in 2008, which was only $700 billion.
Yeah, there's definitely a crisis out there of some kind. And I think again, we had that one report that in the case of Bank of America, that it is their derivatives that are blowing up on them.
So that's a possibility. Now, getting to the whistleblower, I don't know if you heard this this morning or this afternoon. A lot of people are saying the whistleblower is the former director of DNI, the National Intelligence Agency, and his name is Dan Coates, who's a Republican from Indiana. He's a Republican from Indiana that Trump appointed.
Okay. There's a lot of guessing going on this one, so we'll put his name on the list as a definite maybe, and that's final.
Right. But, one thing I remember about him, he was very critical of the Trump administration when it came to Trump relationship with Putin.
Yes,
that's a known fact.
Well, that certainly fits in with a lot of the other speculation that's going on right now.
Right. And again, like you stated, it's speculation.
Yeah. Anyway, what they're saying is that apparently Trump is being at least cordial with the new president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, who he's also going to meet with at the UN General Assembly next week. And apparently this whistleblower complaint involves a promise made by Trump to this foreign leader, whoever it turns out to be. And that's what prompted the whistleblower complaint. Now, this may get tied up with Ukraine and Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and the bribing of the government to fire the top prosecutor who was investigating Hunter Biden. So there's a lot of skullduggery going around, enough for everybody here. And there's another speculation out there that basically Trump promised something to Ukraine if they would restart the investigation into Hunter Biden's son. Because at this point, it does look like, it's going to be Trump Biden next year, unless Hillary, God forbid, steps in.
Right. Well, I heard that Trump promised Ukraine $250 million, and the Pentagon was not happy about that.
Well, I can imagine they wouldn't be happy about that.
Regarding Biden's son, to be honest with you, I was very, very leery of him. When he was alive and he was dealing with Ukraine, because he got a good sweetheart deal due to his father.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, that happened, about 4 or 5 years ago?
Something like that. And of course, the corporate media is not talking about that because, Biden's the Democratic front runner, and by golly, we got to support Biden because he's going to get that Donald Trump out of the White House.
Well, again, I have mixed feelings about Biden, and I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. So, well, Michael, I will let you go. You take care.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we're going to switch to Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. It seems like I follow Jim a lot, but I was going to talk, you said, about McCabe and him not being indicted. Now, I think there's two good things about him not being indicted yet. One,
yep.
There's a good chance they might be making a deal with him, and he might be squealing. I mean, that might be going on in the background. That might be a clue as to why CNN, they're all of a sudden starting to voice problems with him at the network. It might be a subtle word that he's cooperating, and they want to punish him for that. The other thing that's good about having a rat like him around is Trump can sit back and see who's defending him. Who in his administration is saying, "Oh, don't go after him. Be easy on him." These are people that went as a coup. They tried to overthrow his presidency. They stalled 2 years of his presidency. I mean, he should have come in as president and had a honeymoon. There was no honeymoon for him at all. There was they were trying to entrap him. And I mean, I'm outraged about it because I feel like I've been disenfranchised, or they attempted to disenfranchise my vote. And I could just imagine how outraged he must be. And I give him credit for being able to control his temper a lot more than I would be able to. But once again, he can see around him now all the rats, all the little squirmy little snakes and neocons and rhinos, all of them that are telling him, Mr. Trump, if you're listening, anybody that's telling you to go easy on Comey or McCabe, they're snakes. Fire them immediately. Get rid of them. And I
would agree on that. And you've got, of course, all of these former Obama officials are all lining up saying, we will testify on behalf of McCabe that he's a swell guy and nothing should happen. Anyway, Joe, got to let you go. Got to take a break from commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go back to the phones to Keith Rogers. And Keith, what's on your mind today?
Well, I wanted to say something about China here, but you know, Mike, your story yesterday about those 30 pine nut farmers.
Yes.
That were killed by the, you know, I watch Pompeo's Twitter account there, and this guy is off the loony bin there, but
yeah,
you know, it reminds me of the article here where it said a U.S. missile may have killed hundreds in Mosul, and this is where they hit a mosque. And it's a shame that American politicians care more about oil than they do human lives. And of course, that's because they're brokers for oil for like Japan and stuff, because they make the profits from this, you know. But it just shows a total disregard for human lives. And of course, Pompeo himself, anyone that knows the covert actions of the CIA and the millions that have been killed in all these covert wars all through Latin America and stuff. I mean, this is all done in Americans' name, and this is why people chant death to America. But anyway, in lieu of that, your earlier remarks here about China and stuff, I was just reading here that Montana and Nebraska did not secure China's sales for their soybean crop.
Yes.
And so on top of economic news, here in Montana, that's going to be devastating here.
Yes.
It's bad enough that so many farmers are going bankrupt now, and there's a spike in farmer suicides.
Yes.
And the other caller that mentioned the $1 trillion being injected there, the banks aren't loaning to anyone other than corporations to buy up their own stock. I know people like myself that have even tried to refinance our homes, and they just won't do it. So, I think the U.S. is digging themselves into a deeper hole.
Yes.
For every home that was, and I mean legally, for those that can modify their mortgages to either purchase a new vehicle or a newer one, and have the money to pay it with no problem like that. These are the ones that are robbing, which of course that's robbing from the actual society of those that are working to build vehicles and stuff. So it's a massive circle that just keeps leading back to zero.
Well, I predicted that this was going to happen when Trump put all these embargoes on China products and selling U.S. products to China. I said, China's going to go on out. They're going to find other suppliers. And if the sanctions go away, China's not going to come back. Why should they go through that? And it's another case. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to insert one thing. I don't care about Trump and his so-called policies in general. It's his actions and stuff. He's a president. I have no problem with that, and I think he was duly elected as president there. My only problem with Trump is how he puts this blame game, because anyone that knows, clear back in the late 80s, it was when U.S. corporations started offshoring U.S. jobs, and they're doing it again, even under Trump. So this is the corporate fascism that we see today, and each one of those Americans that lost their jobs, lost their apartments, their homes, their vehicles to repossession, they've lost their credit, and they just don't care. And of course, the only way to do it is to flood the country with illegal immigrants who'll work for peanuts to keep the wages down, so no one can have any growth. So it's all part of a systemic issue here.
Yeah.
That it's caused by these corporations that actually control the White House. Remember when Trump was going to China, the first thing he did before he went to China is he met with all those corporate CEOs.
Yes. Yes, he did. But, we've been seeing this offshoring. I mean, literally the tax code was edited or changed rather to provide incentives for offshoring Americans' jobs to other nations back in the 80s. Right now, there's apparently a bill before Congress that would encourage businesses to recruit Asian and Indian workers ahead of U.S. workers. I mean, talk about an absolute betrayal and a sellout.
Yeah, and well, I guess one more thing and I'll hang up here, but, and we can go back now for decades of how the banks have laundered hundreds of billions of dollars in cartel money.
Yes.
And these guys have never faced consequences for this. And I mean, they're the ones that, like the CIA, have flooded the middle cities and inner cities there of all the drugs in this country to finance it. Because if you look at it, I mean, logistically, wherever the United States goes, a drug cartel is set up.
Yes. Well, look what they did in Afghanistan.
Anyway,
the Taliban. Thank you. Yeah, look what happened in Afghanistan. The Taliban had eradicated opium production, and as soon as the United States moved on in, the poppies were blooming all over again. All right, we're going to switch over to Robert in California. Aloha, Robert. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
Boy, I'm not even sure where to start. Keith just really kind of, not only did he steal my thunder, but he really hit it out of the park. I couldn't find a single thing on everything he said that I don't completely agree with. We're looking at a really messed up scenario right now, Mike.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I was calling originally about social justice, but what he said really ties into that on a kind of a macro level. What kind of social justice are we giving the rest of the world when all we're doing is creating our own enemies 20 years from now? I mean, it's been proven time and time again, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, that the entire reason that these enemies over in the Middle East exist is because we started going over there and blowing them up like, a generation or two ago.
Yes.
And, since we haven't stopped, they've started to get upset. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have gotten upset a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know where to go with all this, Mike. I mean, I'm looking at all this news and, I'm a pretty educated person. Half the time, once I get around to actually calling into your show, I'm so upset. I sound like a blithering idiot because I'm, so upset. Man, this is just, how do we actually take control over this? And don't tell me call my senator, because I've called my senator like twice a week or more, like for the last 5 years, and they're not listening. They don't give a damn.
Well, going back and looking at what happened during Prohibition, when alcohol that had sold for pennies was suddenly worth hundreds of dollars, it corrupted the entire government at virtually every level. A lot of people probably don't remember the father of the Kennedy boys, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Teddy Kennedy. Their father, old Joe Kennedy, made a fortune during Prohibition, and we don't think he did it shining shoes. So
that's where they made most of their family fortune, believe it or not.
Yeah, and they were laundering it through the Boston Archdiocese. And so today we've got a similar situation. We have, billions in drug money pouring into this country that's buying up our politicians. And you look at this story of what was going on with Hunter Biden in Ukraine and all of these other scandals that are breaking loose, and you come to understand we have a criminal government. It's a government made up of criminals who are out there using their government position to commit crimes. And that's why they don't care about the American people. They don't care about the infrastructure. They just want to go on out and bomb other countries to steal their resources. And they don't care how many of our kids get killed and crippled in the process. They simply don't. They don't have the mindset to do that.
Well, that exactly brings me around to my previous point. What is it exactly that we're supposed to do about it? Because I'm sitting here ready to act, and I just don't even know what to do. I can't stand up alone. It'll be a game of whack-a-mole. You know how that goes.
I know very well
how everybody can come together. we really need. I mean, look, I hate to call you out on the grass here, but I really encourage you, since you have a voice out here a lot more than I do, that's for sure, is to start doing some homework into some legitimate options that we might have as a populace. And I'm not talking about legitimate options we might have had 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, when the government still gave us a little bit of an edge. I'm talking about how can we react peacefully as a populace here when our government has gone completely off the rails like it's pretty much proven at this point they've done?
Well, the biggest problem we're facing right now, of course, is that, the government is working very hard to keep this population fragmented, whether it's Antifa and racism and social justice warriors. The one thing that they fear is the American people coming together as a single people. And then they'd be in a position to basically say, the way this country is being run is terrible. But now, the government propagandists are out there pushing the transgender situation, the LGBTQ, and just all of this incredible nonsense. And all of its goal is to keep us fighting with each other over what really amounts to a lot of nonsense. But it's to keep us divided. The very first thing we have to do is find a way to bring the American people back together, and that's going to be very, very hard to do.
Usually the pure core understanding of a common enemy is a pretty good cohesive ingredient. I think that, and this is why I listen to your show and a lot of other shows like it, is because I believe that those of you out there that are actually trying to bring something to us about what the truth might be, that's the cohesion. That's the ingredient we're looking for. I just, I'm getting so frustrated, Mike. I'm sitting here and I'm watching and I'm reading and I'm observing and I'm listening and everybody's not reacting. What's wrong here, man? I mean, did everybody really get so retarded in their smartphones and their little computer gadgets that we're just going to sit here with our heads bowed while 1984 comes and puts us in the Ministry of Truth?
Well,
'Cause
you
it's
know,
coming.
yeah, well, it's already here. It's
Yeah,
already here. So
I
the
know.
situation is, you were saying before about awareness of a common enemy is going to bring the population together. And I think more and more Americans, certainly looking at the poll numbers, more and more Americans see the government as the common enemy. They just don't know what what they're supposed to do about it.
Yeah, I'm just one of the other 370 million out there. Well, I'm sure not all of us agree, obviously, but yeah, I'm sitting here and I don't know what to do about it. I know that I'm ready to react. I know that I want to do something about it. I know that I want to be a responsible citizen, to do it peacefully and get it done responsibly and appropriately, but I'm still sitting here scratching my head trying to figure out. I don't even know the first step. I mean, I've called my senators. I've written letters. I've I've showed up at city council meetings. They don't like me much. They've asked me not to come back. And
Yeah.
this is what we're facing right now. And especially as any kind of a Republican or a conservative, or I guess God bless, right winger. I hate getting into the diatribes. I don't even, there is no dialectic in reality. There's just fact. And it's
Yes.
really hard for me to just look at this two-party puppet system here and just not want to puke. I'm really at my ends today. I know that I call in once in a while and I, just kind of blasé over this and I get your reaction about that, maybe tell a couple of jokes. Man, today I'm just upset.
Well, that's actually a good start, because it's going to provide you with the motivation to work to find something to do. Like I said, the biggest problem we have right now is to take this fractured population, which was, broken into these chunks deliberately to keep us weak, fighting with each other. We have to find a way of calling them all back together and say, look, forget about color, forget about racism, forget about gender. You are all Americans. Start acting like it.
God bless you, Mike. Yeah, that was very well said. And I hate to rub it in, but I might stress that point might also be very applicable to Tom and Dustin. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I've
Yeah,
tried to
just
tap
saying.
that down a little bit. And
Yeah, can I ask you one favor about that?
what's that?
Can you make a personal request to both of them not to discuss each other on the air? Because we didn't come here for some kind of like rant, chat room kind of, dispute. We actually came here to listen to Mike Rivero, not Dustin or Tom. And I love hearing from both of them. I actually do like a lot of what either one of them has to say, and I do disagree with them on some points, but if they could just get to their own points and leave everybody else alone, we would all benefit so much more. That's my own personal opinion. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So with that, Mike, I'm going to let you go, and you have a great day. I'm glad you and Claire are settling in well. Oh, and did you get into your new place yet?
No, that'll happen right after the 1st of October. We still don't have an
Oh,
exact
okay.
date,
All right.
but no, it's a lovely little place, and all of our furniture is in storage, and we got our car, and so bit by bit, all of the pieces are being taken care of. And so we think it's going to be pretty. And prices here, it's just amazing how inexpensive everything is around here.
I knew that you would go through a little price shock, yeah, when you look at the cost of living in Hawaii, about anywhere
Yeah.
else you'd like to live, other than California, where I'm stuck at right now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably a good move. No, I'm only stuck in California because when I moved here 12 years ago, I thought I was coming out here for a really good job. And next thing you know, I'm sitting here like trying to work and save up for enough money to move back away.
Yeah, that was
It's
happening a
ridiculous.
lot in Hawaii, where people would go to the expense of moving there because they'd been promised a job, only to get there and the company has collapsed, gone out of business, especially in the tourism sector rather.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really rough what has happened with the tourism because of the economy. Nobody's got money to go out and spend anything on anything. Well, hey, I don't want to get off in the weeds, Mike. I'm going to let you go so you can get back to the news, but I really appreciate what you're doing. I don't ever want you to stop.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep going just as long as I can here, or until global peace and prosperity breaks out.
Good luck.
You know, another reason why people aren't coming to Hawaii, or even doing a lot of tourism inside the United States, they're going to other countries where they don't get groped and fondled by TSA, and then they can feel like they're on a real vacation rather than, you know, being sent to prison. All righty, we're coming up here on another break. We've got another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back with more news and phone calls after the music starts. There it is. All right, we'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And boy, the phone lines are loading up here. So let's go with James on Maui. And aloha, James. What's up, brah?
Oh, I just started to listen to your radio show again. I had given it up for a couple of years,
Okay.
dealing with health issues. And I can appreciate wanting to get out of Wahoo.
Yeah.
It's really turned into ghetto.
Yes.
Turned into ghetto. And I don't... And when they decided to go with this mass transit deal, I knew it was really going to get bad. They should have obviously double-decked Nimitz Highway, like maybe 2 lanes down to, Pier 17, another 2 lanes down to Ward Avenue with contraflow. That would have worked. Would have been poured about 5% of the concrete. They already own the right-of-way. It would have been a cheap fix that would have worked for 20 years if they did the right things out,
Everybody was thinking, we're money. How do we make money off of this thing? And the light rail system on Oahu has been a complete disaster. It's billions over budget. It's years behind schedule. The construction company is fighting, citizens' efforts to get an audit to find out what all that money was spent on. And a lot of people are convinced these trains are never going to run, and we're going to be stuck with this eyesore.
Well, they won't be running 24 hours, and that's what you need with a transit service. Well, I lived over at 49th and Pine in West Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's about a half mile from 2 different stations on the Market Frankfurt L.
Yeah.
And all night long in the summer, you had to have your windows up and the fan going, but all night long, you'd hear them screech into the station, and then these are half mile away.
Yeah.
But at least the public transit worked because within the radius of each station on there, I would guesstimate there were probably 2,000 people within walking distance.
Yeah.
More that could get there off of the city buses. There was no parking where I lived. I went with public transit totally. But I don't blame you for getting out of there. It was a mess. Last few times I've been over there.
It was just too expensive, and drug problems out of control, crime is out of control, the homelessness is out of control. And we went through a period about, I think it was 4 years ago, when the adjoining apartments on either side of us were both dealing drugs, and one of them was actually manufacturing on the premise. So we're here in Indiana, we're staying with family, and we are going through price shock because everything here is so much less expensive, along with things that we can buy here that we simply couldn't find on Oahu. Anyway, James, we're coming up here on station identification. So I'm going to have to let you go and say aloha and thank you for the information. Thank you for the voice from home, because I may be living in Indiana, but I think I'm always going to be Hawaiian at heart. All right, so James, thanks an awful lot. We got to take a break for station identification, and we will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we have callers still on the line, so let's go to Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I have a quick comment on the petrodollar. Is it still dominant?
Not the way it used to be. I mean, when they first set it all up, the goal was to keep the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. But those days are gone. Everybody now talks about a basket of currencies being used for global reserve. And as of last weekend, it should be apparent to Saudi Arabia that the United States can't keep its side of the petrodollar deal because those drones and missiles supposedly from the Houthis just blew right past all of our latest and greatest defenses.
Okay. And I have another comment, Mike. How's the food in Indiana, particularly the pizza?
A lot fresher than what we were getting on Oahu. I mean, so much of the land out there has been given over to housing development. There's very little locally produced food. There's one ranch left on the island that raises beef. Dole pineapple is still going strong. And there are actually no sugarcane fields left on Oahu. You have to go to another island to see those.
Is the pizza good?
I haven't had pizza yet. I have to kind of avoid tomatoes in my diet. But yeah, we love the food.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. Have a nice weekend.
All right. Same to you. And we're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Hey, by the way, where do you live? In southern Indiana or northern Indiana? I've been through there quite a bit.
We're in southern Indiana, partway between the border with Tennessee and the border between Central and Eastern Time, which causes, unfortunately, no end of confusion. Fortunately, the cell towers are constantly updating the iPhone and iWatch with the correct local time. But when you're, like one of the nearest big towns is called Jasper, and they're on Eastern Time. So every time that we, look online for something that's in Jasper, we have to keep in mind the times are not lining up.
Hey, actually, not too far from me. I'm right on the Tennessee border, really, where I live.
Okay.
North Carolina, Tennessee. So we're not that far. You're not that far. Anyway, Mike, I just want to ask you something. You know this thing about this supposedly whistleblower. I
Yes.
believe it's connected to Bolton. Okay, I think it's just Bolton's revenge. What country do you think they're talking about? Do you think it's North Korea? It doesn't sound like it's Russia, because if it was Russia, they would be having a conniption already. Rachel Mad Cow would be yelling and screaming about it, and all these other people. Okay, you think it's North Korea?
Well, they can't scream about it yet because nobody really knows for sure what was actually in the complaint. But the Democrats are definitely smelling blood in the water, maybe their own. And they want to grab this whistleblower complaint because they think it will give them the ammunition they need to impeach Trump and remove him from office.
What this shows you, Mike, is the old saying about if you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. Now, I lay down. My dogs go to sleep with me, but I make sure I give them the proper stuff they need to keep the fleas and ticks away.
Yes.
But it's the same. But when you lay down with neocons, then you shouldn't be surprised when you start getting warmongering, and you get snitched on, and you get spied on, and all this other stuff. That's what Trump can't seem to get through his thick head, because now this new guy, this new NSA guy, sounds to me like another neocon. He comes from the Bush. He comes from the Bush people. Condoleezza Rice was his mentor. I mean, this is and he just hasn't learned. But that's really a good. But that's the lesson. You lay down with, dogs, you're gonna get fleas. You lay down with neocons, you're gonna get spied on. You're gonna get wars. You're gonna get all kinds of terrible stuff. Okay, but again, Trump don't listen. That's all I got to say, really, Mike, today.
Okay.
Anyway,
well,
I hope
thank
you in Indiana now, and it's a great state. Just watch out for the tornadoes.
Well, every place you live, there's going to be a problem. I mean, they have tornadoes here. Not as many in this part of the state. You live in California, you got to deal with earthquakes, and I understand they had a fairly moderate one outside Huntington Beach a few days ago. You live in Hawaii, it's tsunamis and occasional earthquakes. And if you're on the Big Island, you could have lava, coming into your living room. So every place has got a problem. And, you just learn to adapt to it. We kind of got used to this environment in Hawaii where the only really poisonous thing we had to worry about were the centipedes, which wouldn't kill you. I mean, you'd be seriously annoyed it happened. Here, we got all kinds of spiders and rattlesnakes and everything that we have to worry about. But, like I said, no place is perfect, unless the tornado sucks us up over the rainbow and we wind up in the land of Oz.
I know what you mean with the snakes, sir. I just killed a copperhead here the other day. I normally don't like to kill animals because I love animals, but my dog, one of the dogs was bitten 3 years ago by a copperhead, and she still limps on that paw. Okay, it's leftover from that bite. So if you one of them around here, it's kill on sight, because I'm not going to take any chance. But I know what you mean. I see the big I've plenty of big spiders around here too, So
yes,
I know what you mean by that. All right, Mike, you take it easy, all right?
All right, certainly
Enjoy
will.
it.
Thank you for the phone call. Have yourself a great weekend. Getting on back to our domestic political news. As you're no doubt aware, the Democrats, they're on fishing expeditions. They're trying to find something they can use against Donald Trump. And I can't even figure out why. He's basically given them almost everything that they wanted. The wall isn't being built. We're getting into these wars. We're not getting into Iran yet, but then there are a lot of people, including in the Pentagon, who are saying, we're not ready. We're overstretched around the globe militarily. That may be the reason Trump was trying to negotiate a withdrawal from Afghanistan to repurpose those assets. And Bolton said, no, I know better than the president. We've got to keep on fighting here. So one of the fights here involves Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance, who has subpoenaed Trump's personal and corporate tax returns for the past 8 years. And Trump is resisting this. They're trying to say, look, every other president has released their tax records. Yeah. Did they hide some money that wasn't taxed? We know some of them did. But Trump's attorney, Jay Sekulow, is filing a lawsuit against the Manhattan DA. So they're going to tie it up in court and just keep it going. And he's arguing that there are significant constitutional ramifications for dragging Trump into court. And he's saying, again, this is just more harassment. And it began ever since, Hillary lost in 2016. They have not let up. And maybe that's the clue right there. Maybe all of this harassment and tampering and vitriol is just coming out of this one bitter woman who cannot let go of the fact that she lost in 2016. Lady knows how to keep a grudge. Apparently she's over in Europe and was being interviewed by an Italian magazine and was laughing about the email scandal, saying, it's just political theater. There's nothing there. So she knows she's untouchable. Nothing's going to happen to her. All right, according to Tom Fitton, he did his weekly video, and he's saying that documents that they have received from the State Department reveal efforts by the Obama State Department to undermine candidate, then President Trump. So yeah, they're all ganging up on him. They're after, and Trump needs to put on those presidential brass knuckles and start dealing with some of these people decisively. Now, getting on over to the upcoming election, I know that the general election is all the way 14 months from now, but it's coming up on primary season, and the early primary states are Iowa and New Hampshire, and a win in either of these states by any of these Democratic candidates, I mean, they're all over the place. It's a free-for-all as of right now. But if they win in Iowa or New Hampshire, then they get put onto the national stage as the presumptive nominee. A big loss in either state could also lead to the end of several candidates' campaigns. Maybe de Blasio just didn't want to go through that humiliating experience. And of course, no one is risking more in the early state of New Hampshire than Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, the most radical socialist in the Democratic primary field to date, Sanders thinks that he has New Hampshire in the bag. And his strong showing in Iowa against Hillary Clinton in 2016 means his campaign is optimistic about their chances there as well. But I can understand Jimmy Carter's concern about Sanders' age, especially with that goof the other day where his new tax plan was going to put 770 million women back into the workforce in a country with only 330 million people to begin with, not counting the illegal immigrants, and there's only about 25 million of those. All righty, let's get into the economic news here. And as that caller mentioned, the New York Federal Reserve is just pumping massive liquidity into Wall Street and the banks. And they're talking about a potentially permanent repo and QE, quantitative easing. System is coming apart. And I know the conventional wisdom is that as long as the US government can just create money out of thin air, that all will be well. And it doesn't really work that way, because if you create too much money, that's going to hasten the abandonment of the dollar by other countries around the world. They're not going to want it in trade. They're not going to want it for their basket of reserve currencies. And then it all comes crashing down. Personally, I see this as an act of panic. I'm going to go on telling you that the economy is booming, that it's doing really well, because after all, it's campaign season. And I'm sure that Trump understands that if the economy suffers a major correction before the election, the Democrats are going to blame him for it. I mean, a lot of people blamed Herbert Hoover for the Depression of the 1930s, but Hoover did not create that depression. It was created for him. It was set in motion before he even sat in that Oval Office. Same thing with Donald Trump. Everyone's playing the blame game here. Alan Greenspan is expecting the U.S. to embrace negative interest rates. This comes just a day after Fed Chairman Powell said, no, he's never going to do that. All right, we talked about this briefly before. Senator Lee has this bill for the Senate to favor Chinese and Indian workers over U.S. workers, and fortunately, it has been blocked by the Senate. I mean, what is this guy thinking? You know, he's a senator in the United States of America, and he wants to pass a law so that companies are required to hire Chinese and Indian workers ahead of U.S. workers. Glad the Senate killed that one. Can you imagine trying to go into an election with that on your record? Okay, down in Australia, Egon von Greyers was interviewed on As Good as Gold, Australia, and made the prediction that gold will reach $10,000 an ounce, but property prices are headed for a collapse. I think that a lot of these countries ought to start thinking right now about starting to de-link this global financial system. Because remember, the lesson we learned back in 2008, this financial globalist system is what turned what should have just been a U.S. problem into a global banking crisis. And we were hearing all these stories about secret gold bullion shipments to try and keep European banks afloat. Bank of America did a survey, and they found, to nobody's surprise, that recession fears have reached all-time highs. Pretty much everybody understands it's coming. Okay, over in Great Britain, there is a kerfuffle building between Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the EU itself. The EU basically issued an ultimatum saying that get your proposal to us by the end of the month or there's no deal at all. Any hope of securing a Brexit deal would be over. And Boris basically said, no, there's no cause to publish proposals at this time until the EU is clear that it will engage constructively on them as a replacement for the backstop. They certainly want to keep Great Britain into that system. Because if Great Britain succeeds in breaking free, Germany will probably be next, because those Germans are not going to want to be the sole support for those other European countries. Alrighty, Jeff Epstein is back in the news again. Apparently, he ran a $500 million Ponzi scheme fueled by insider trading and fake stock buys, then fleeced his clients by selling off $275 million worth of bogus notes when the money ran out. Now, Epstein was hit with a class action lawsuit before his death that accused him of running this $500 million Ponzi scheme. Boy, there is a good motive to fake your own death right there. So Epstein was sued by Marvin Gerber and Kalma Koenig on behalf of themselves and any other note holders and bondholders of Towers Financial Corporation. So he wasn't just into sex with underage girls. He was a cheat. He was a fraud. He's a criminal. Like I said, in a class action lawsuit, good reason to fake your own death. I think that's exactly what happened, and I think Epstein is alive somewhere. Some people think he's back in Israel. He could be down in the playing canasta with Ken Lay down there in the Caymans. Any place without an extradition treaty to the United States. So he's definitely somebody's asset. All right, this is a little disappointing news here. A federal lawsuit related to the shooting of rancher Robert Lavoy Finicum has been dismissed by the judge. Now, for those of you who don't remember, there was this standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, which, by the way, sits on some of the land that has now been leased to this Canadian-Russian uranium company, Uranium One. So they must have been in the way. So there was this civil suit that was filed because nobody was criminally charged in the guy's shooting. And you can see from the drone video, he's just standing there with his hands up. He's not armed, and he just got gunned down. So the official story was justified shooting. The family filed civil lawsuit, and Chief District Court Judge Michael Mosman dismissed all counts, saying it's time to put a fork in the case. So he got caught. We're going to be right back after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
So, are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, over in Washington, D.C., specifically the northeast part of the city, there was a mass shooting. 1 killed, 5 injured, one of those very seriously, in Columbia Heights, followed by another shooting in which 1 was killed and 2 were hurt. And police said they were looking for a light-colored Nissan sedan with 2 males who appeared to have assault rifles. So I smell a rat here, another staged shooting to push the gun grabber agenda. And I just checked, there's been no update on the story. They haven't arrested the suspects or any of that here. All righty, Edward Snowden has once again formally requested asylum in the country of France. And once again, they have turned him down. And they're just saying it's not the time. It is definitely not the time here. Over in Ohio, authorities set up a child sex sting online on computers. And basically they were going on out and saying that if, you come to this address with thus and such money, you'll be able to have sex with an underage girl or boy. And 104 people were arrested in this sting, including a medical doctor and a church youth director. I'm starting to see this as a sign of the collapse of our society, the collapse of our civilization. This is not how you treat children. Over at Facebook in Menlo Park, a Facebook employee died after jumping off the 4th floor of a building in what they're describing as an apparent suicide. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, now this is a little bit interesting, and it's about time that the people stopped using euphemisms and said what was going on. A federal court in San Francisco has taken the step of using the word torture to describe the treatment of a Palestinian man while he was in CIA custody following the September 11 attacks. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals used the word in a 2-to-1 ruling to describe the harsh interrogation methods used against a prisoner known as Abu Zubaydah while he was held in clandestine CIA detention facilities overseas. Zubaydah has since been held without charge, mind you, since September of 2006 at the detention center on the U.S. base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Just absolutely shameful. What was the CIA trying to do by torturing the guy? Get a confession? That's how they got one from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. They waterboarded him something like 130 times, I think. And then they locked his kids into these dark metal boxes, no light whatsoever, with biting insects. And Khalid got to hear the kids screaming. Nice people over there at the Central Intelligence Agency. All right, well, you've all been hearing about the college admissions scandal where the ultra-rich were literally buying their yuppie larvae into prestige schools with cash on the barrelhead here. And now there's another scandal over in Baltimore where grades were being rigged. And Baltimore students who failed classes, missed more than 100 days of school, were still allowed to graduate. And they're basically saying it's widespread fraud that allows these children to graduate when they've clearly not learned the material. So Project Baltimore, who has spearheaded the investigation into this fraud, has uncovered another school where students missed more than 100 days of class or failed 10 courses in 3 years, still graduated during the 2019 school year. So it's a failure of education because basically all they really want is the bodies in the room, because that's what calculates their budget. And of course, it's shortchanging the students who are not getting the education they need. And this is probably one of the reasons that colleges are complaining. They're getting kids coming in without the basic skills. And their students are spending most of their first year in college basically in remedial classes. We're losing our kids. I mean, between the sexual abuse and the failure of education, it's a disaster. All right, we got to take another break here for commercials, and we will be right back.
are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats: rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, you've probably been hearing on the news about this so-called climate strike, where students are walking out of their classes with apparently the blessing of the teacher to go on this massive strike to protest against human-caused global warming. And I've heard they generated some good numbers in Europe. But I'm not hearing that it got that much of a response here. And it may be because the signs are already out there that we're going to have another early, hard winter. I mean, around here, the trees are already starting to turn. And out in California, Mammoth Mountain got its first snow of the season after what was described as a very short summer. Now, fall officially begins on Monday. And so, yeah. Yesterday we talked about this story where NBC put up this online confessions board where you could confess your climate sins. and apparently a lot of people were using it. Some were apparently very sincere, that they thought that things they were doing were bad for the environment. A lot of people weren't taking it quite that seriously, and some of the comments were actually quite hilarious. Unfortunately, whoever's running that board is out there trying to delete the humorous comments. We want you to take this seriously. We're not here for laughs. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Kelly in Austin. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there, Mike, and welcome back to the States.
Thank you.
Mainland. Yeah, I was listening to your comments about education in Baltimore, and it made me think about my experience teaching geology at the university and at the junior college level. At the university level, I had no problem. The students were well prepared. But in the junior college level, where I taught for a little while, the students, many of the students were frankly ill prepared. Grade distributions were decidedly bimodal, and many of the students on the lower end of the scale, I don't think could have been benefit from any amount of remediation. That's how poor I think poorly our students have been educated.
Yes.
And I don't really see a prospect for this improving anytime soon, because the public education system seems to be more dedicated to indoctrination rather than education.
That's part of the problem.
That's why I sent my daughter to a private school.
Good for you.
Not a public school. But I just don't see this improving at all. And I was just shocked to hear you say that some students in Baltimore who had missed more than 100 days of class were promoted to the next grade or even allowed to graduate, period.
Yes. I mean, they're just running them through there. It's a assembly line is what it basically is. And it's because the public education system has become corrupted by money. The more students they have, the more money they get. So all they're really thinking about is just getting the bodies into those classrooms. And even with that, much of the money that is given to the public school system winds up, at the very top levels in these huge salaries for school superintendents and various staff. And that's why you see, parents are out there in front of the supermarkets selling brownies to get money to buy their kids' school supplies.
I don't know. It's pathetic. We don't support education the way we should. And then we don't expect much of the students themselves. Here in Austin, Texas, depending upon where you go to school, you can be assured that you're either going to be in a very good school or a very poor school. And in the poor schools, it's always the case that the students are from families that just don't frankly care much about education.
Yeah.
You can spend any amount of money on them and their grades will not improve. It's really a matter of diminishing returns. I think they'd be better off if they just decided we're going to start shutting some of these schools down and failing a lot of these students, because they need to be failed. They're not learning anything. They're not learning how to think. They're being told what to think, and they're just being told to march in lockstep with the prevailing political philosophy of the day. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Again, looking at Common Core, we had a neighbor who lived next door to us for a while that was part of the team from the company, what was that, Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were implementing it in Hawaii schools, and she wasn't supposed to do this. It's definitely against her. They won't even let the parents look at the curriculum material. But she let me look at some of it, and it really is. It's politically correct indoctrination. They literally rewrote the Bill of Rights to convince these kids that they don't actually have a right to keep and bear arms unless they're in a government militia.
Well, I'm not surprised. I've heard that in college as well. So that they're getting in an elementary school shouldn't surprise anyone, to tell you the truth. I really think the public education today is a sham. We're not getting what we expect out of it, and I think that the students or parents now have to demand that these schools change, or that they start sending their students through their children to private schools to send a message to the public school system that the public school systems are absolutely abysmal. They're failing, and they will not improve if they don't back off this politically driven approach to education.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You know, more parents should be allowed to homeschool, but they're trying to basically shut that all down because it's taking money away from the public school system. It's all about the money.
I know.
It's all
and
about
I've
the
thought
money.
about that. I have a 3-year-old grandson, and I've thought long and hard about what to do with his education. I said his parents are in charge of that, but they know how I feel about things. And I just don't want him in a public school. I'm willing to pay the freight to send my grandson to a first-rate private school here in Austin, rather than subject him to the public school system. I just don't see anything good coming out of that if you end up in the wrong school.
Yeah. No, you got to
That's a
start.
very politically incorrect thing to say here in Austin.
I'm sorry?
That's a very politically incorrect thing to say here in Austin.
Well, too bad. You know, I think it's time that we tell political correctness to go take a long walk off a short pier, because again, it's cultural Marxism. They're trying to trick us into self-censorship, and we can't do that anymore.
I spoke with you about that several months ago, and I told you that when I first ran across that back in the 80s, when I was in grad school in Colorado, that I didn't think that thing had much legs, that political correctness had much legs. But I was wrong. Apparently, it has. It has
very
legs.
well funded. Very well funded.
Right, and we laughed at that at the time, I recall. I was at one of the best engineering schools in Colorado. We laughed at that at the time, and we didn't think that it would last more than a year or two, but here we are more than 30 years later. And that seems to be what's driving much of education, really all of public education today.
Yes.
We're stuck if we don't do something to kill that beast right now.
I would agree with you.
Anyway, I'm glad you're back. Glad you're back stateside. I know you're going to enjoy the fall and the winter in Indiana. You'll actually see 4 seasons now.
Yes, in Hawaii we only have 2 seasons: hurricane and tourist.
Well, down in Texas we have 2 seasons: summer and late summer.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll be fine. Anyway, Kelly, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over to Todd in Long Beach. And Todd, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Well, let's stick with the education thing of the abysmal USA and the left coast is probably, I would say, the worst, starting with California. My son, as you know, I've spoken to you before about our lawsuit that we finished and won.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we come to find out that even the second attorney, we found out that there was not only the 2, my son and another boy that we knew about, but another name popped up in the case. And I go, you can't be kidding. And this kid is still in the damn school and was not expelled. Unreal. And I talked to the detective that's in charge of the schools for his district that he was in. And I told her about the bullying of this child. And she said, oh, no, this is just 2 children. And then, oh, yeah, so there's, you know, now we got 3 victims. Okay. Yep. Change the rest of their life. And let me add a little caveat to this, Mike. And if you have enough children in the state of California, remove them from a public school and take over your education of your child now today.
Yes.
Because if your child is autistic, they put them on a non-diploma track right away, and you're never told. You're never told of this. And then that way they can dumb them down even further. But let me add another second caveat. I've got my son in geometry. Mm-hmm. I did this all myself. I've given up my career and everything else. I'm 55. I turned 55 on the 14th. Okay. Had a nice filet mignon dinner. And my deal is I get to see my son flourish. I don't think for 1 minute he would have flourished in that school and got to do geometry. I mean, I'm doing division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. And then Monday we start on the area and the perimeter of a circle.
Okay.
Okay. And so I dare say that he would never have gotten this in any public school here in California. They just would have continued with the BS non-diploma track that they would have put him on, not tell us. I mean, they lied at, I would say, almost 2 years of IEPs, which are inter-educational program meetings for your children that if they have needs, special needs.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if you're a parent in the state of California, you have a speech pathologist, you have the principal. If you have a vice principal, they're there. You have the teacher, you have the teacher's aide that's specifically assigned to your child. And then you have some kind of ologist. I mean, there's like 10 people in that room. And then if you don't have an advocate and your advocate is not worth anything, then you're going to get stomped on in these meetings. Literally, they'll just wipe you clean with the floor with a smile on their face, and you don't know what the heck just happened unless the advocate is good. I fired them all. I fired all ours. They ended up not knowing what the heck to do or what was going on, and I'm going, you're kidding. I know more about how to take care of my autistic son in this school and realizing that this is a bullying case and you're just telling me to roll over. It's not that way, and it's not that easy. Another caveat, I do MMA. So to stand there and see my son take the bullying, it really wrenches a grown man's gut 6 ways on a Sunday stick. And you never become a truster or a believer ever again in the system because you realize that there's no way to trust it. You don't see anything that provides you with some believable whatever it is they're supposed to be presenting you with these school systems. And I think California, I think California and Mississippi are probably the two worst in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And Long Beach, they've dumbed my oldest down to the point where I have to figure out whether I'm going to keep them in a public school or yank them out and just do it all myself. Because I have 3 college degrees. I graduated with a 3.85 GPA. I got 1 B and 1 C. My last degree, I was doing 27 units a semester for almost 2 years. I did it for like a year and a half. Why? Because I wanted to graduate early. And I got a 3.85 GPA. On top of that, I did 2 to 4 hours a day of karate. And then I did fencing and volleyball and everything else. Mm-hmm. I'd go home at 1:30 in the morning. Maybe these young kids can learn something from me. How many people you know pull 27 units and get 1 B and 1 C? Not many, because you have to be motivated to do that kind of thing.
You just hit the button on the head. It is, the kids have to be motivated.
I took Greek and Latin back to back besides my own field, which was religious studies, Judeo-Christian studies. And I'm telling you, I was setting myself up to go to UCLA, and I just realized that it's all a game. It's pathetic. Yeah. You have to get your professors to write you off so that you can enter the program. And I had already had German, Attic Greek, and Latin. My next 2 languages were going to be French and Italian because I needed all the old archaeological languages that all the old dissertations were written in so that I could read some stuff that I had ideas about and things like that. But it's all a game. This whole school system in California, remember who runs the UC, Janet, the corrupt Napolitano. She's got more. She's more, remember, if they bring down Hillary, she's got to go too. I mean, her disgusting behavior on how she treated the Secret Service and those assigned to the White House, unreal and unprecedented. And I hope people in California hear me and begin to say you're a disgusting woman and you deserve all the bad tidings you get, because trust you me, that woman has probably got murder under her belt, just like Hillary and Obama at Benghazi. Okay? And we know this is happening, Mike. And it reflects from the top down. So if it reflects from the top down, look at the Teachers Union of the United States of America, the most powerful union in the U.S. There's no other more powerful union. I mean, I remember when I was
where education went wrong, when it was changed from a profession to a trade and unionized. Anyway, listen, Todd, got to take a break for commercials. And thank you for the call. We'll be back with another phone call after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Well, to add to your last caller is that I'm going to say that California is a test pilot state on many programs. And if it flies there, it usually migrates to another state. So I was there, living there 7-8 years. So seen some odd things thrown that way. And if it passes there, it usually migrates somewhere else. But I had to go back to my archives of articles here. I have one in front of me here, dated Saturday, July 6th of 2019, from the Orlando Sentinel. And the title of the front page says, "Subpar Students Still Admitted." And let me read just a little small excerpt of it. "Even as admissions to Florida public universities have become increasingly competitive, those institutions are still accepting students who don't meet the state's basic admission requirements. Nearly 1,000 students who lack the grades or test scores to get into the state's four-year universities were admitted and enrolled in the fall 2018 freshman class. Data obtained through a records request shows these sophomores are called alternative admits." And then going back down here a little further, it says, "Accepting applicants who fall short of the state's requirements make freshman classes more diverse," that bad D word, "and allows for students who are the first in their families to go to college." Well, all you have to say is that you're right. The first year or two is a lot of remedial stuff for a lot of these students, and not every kid should go to college. And I want to stress that. There are kids who should be going to trade schools, and but you're right. It's about the money. The university, an empty chair makes no money. It's like an airline doesn't want to leave the station there with the seats all empty. An empty chair in a university doesn't get any money. So it's always about the money, and not every kid should go to college. Not every kid should go.
I absolutely agree. It's a racket. Like everything else in this country, it's been turned into a racket, especially the colleges, which are there primarily to plunge their students onto that student loan debt hook.
Oh, yeah.
Just plunge them on good and hard. And now, of course, that's out of control, and these kids can't find the high-paying jobs that they were told they'd be able to find to pay off those loans, and so they're stuck.
It's true. Another thing I noticed is that they do a lot of testing in schools. The high schools, of course, to get the federal grants, the federal funding, you have to show improvement. Your test scores are up. And we know these numbers are just as bogus as the numbers they throw at unemployment and everything else. So they show that their test scores have gone up, but then when they go to college, they're taking remedial courses. So it doesn't quite match out. And we know these numbers are being doctored in order to get the federal funding for high schools. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, I've had two experiences of teaching in my life. The first one was in California at a high school where I taught a remedial math course and discovered that much of the problem with education not working is with the school administration itself and with parents, who want their kids to be educated but don't want to get involved. And my second teaching experience was at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where I was teaching computer animation. Now, those kids came in, they wanted to learn because we were looking at this potential explosion of a computer animation industry in Hawaii, which I was definitely in favor of. And I went down to the legislature and put on a presentation here. But the film board was just interested in bringing Hollywood productions in because they like hanging out with the movie stars. So it is a shame. Anyway, listen, we got to take a break here for station identification, and we'll be back after these few words.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my mute button on. My bad. So welcome back to the show. It's hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're going to go to the phones here to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I've been listening to the people talking about the education. Of course, I'm in California. It's not just California, also, of course. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I may have spoken of it before, there was in L.A. last January, there was a teachers' strike. The teachers were striking for their demands were lower class size, more pay, of course.
Yeah.
And those are the two things. And the lower class size was kind of a sop to make it easier for the parents to understand why they're going, on strike. They deserve more pay, certainly. But the point is, and when they went out on strike, I told a lot of my teacher friends, I said, look, you guys, if you get this, you're only going to get it one time. And the problem with the LA Unified education in California as a whole is that the class sizes keep climbing up and up and up as more and more illegals come in.
Yes.
And the illegals don't pay. And I think about 10 years ago, Mike, it was like 35% of the LA Unified school system, the enrollees were either illegals or the children of illegals who were not paying anything in, who required special bilingual teachers, special bilingual texts. Of course, they were eligible for all those free breakfasts and milk and cookies kind of thing. They're far more expensive than the normal student, and they are, of course, lower. Some of them are illiterate already, even in Spanish. So they're flooding in, and of course, it's a sanctuary city and so on. And the reason why they're flooding in is it is a sanctuary city. The reason why they're flooding in is it has always been, the police forever have never asked for immigration status when they make an arrest here. So they got their demands, and then the bond to pay for these demands failed in July. And I send my child to a private school. It's very expensive. I pay taxes, but the schools are inadequate. But at least I send my kid to a private school. But so now the bond failed. They've already expended the money. They've lost a bunch of money on the strike. And so what does the state and the LA Unified and the state school, where do they go for the money? Well, hand in hand, they go to Trump, and they say to Trump, or the Trump educational department, they say, well, we need more money. This thing failed. It's going to be catastrophic if we don't get it. Blah 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 blah. And then, what's the Trump department going to say when everybody else who are not sanctuary cities, who do not allow people wholesale into their areas like this, packing the classes with all these expensive kids and who aren't citizens and so on, they're going to say, well, I'm not going to take money away from Maine or from Ohio or Indiana. They comply already, and the problem is that you're not complying with that as a state and as a city and county. And so, pound sand, basically. you want money from us, you got to look somewhere else. And of course, Trump is not going to lose anything politically. California is Democrat to the bone. So that's what's going on. Plus, we have taxpayers seeing the trend of what's going on, looting in droves.
Yes.
And illegals coming in droves. It's a graph that only has one way to go, and it's catastrophic. So that's my take on it, Mike, for what it's worth.
Well, that's why Claire and I left Hawaii, was the expense. It was simply, and we're still going through price shock here. And, tomorrow they're actually having a community yard sale where a lot of people are going to have stuff out there. Claire and I are going to go shopping for a dining table. She wants in the new place here. And, as far as the education system is concerned, to judge by the kids that we have in the family, Indiana has a good public education system because these kids are sharp and they're motivated. They're interested in things like the arts and sciences. And that's going to be fun for me. Claire's going to be teaching them all about music, and I'm going to be teaching them all about science because that's my thing. And, that's what you're supposed to do with kids. Teach, take care. See all this other stuff going on, and it's just horrible. Anyway, Peter, anything else?
No, that's it, Mike. Have a great day. I hope you find some good bargains, man.
I hope so too. I really do. All righty, so we're going to get back here to the news here. The phone lines are completely open, 800-313-9443. We are seeing dramatic changes in our environment, if you will. They're not related to global warming. That's just something that somebody turned into a racket. But we're seeing what's being called the insect apocalypse. And bug populations are in serious, serious decline. And the reason this is a problem is because this means that the primary food supply for birds is in sharp decline. And as a result of that, the bird population is in decline. And I remember when that book Silent Spring came out and they were blaming DDT. And it could be an overuse of pesticides is the reason for the decline in bugs. But if you don't have bugs, you're not going to have birds. So, except for the raptors who eat things other than bugs here. All righty. Over in Europe, they're dealing with a mystery. And the mystery is babies born with the same hand and arm defects all over Europe. And they're trying to say, is this outside contamination? Is it a pesticide? Is it just a random coincidence? Because the deformities are all looking, very much the same. There was one hospital, they had 3 cases. Now, apparently there is no nationwide registry to keep track of deformities, so they don't really know how big a problem this is yet. But babies are being born at the hospital with undeveloped palms and fingers on one hand. Now, Russia Today has twice contacted both the city administration of Geisenkirchen, the city, and the St. Mary's Hospital seeking more information on the situation, has received no response. Speaking of response, still no updates on that story of the shootings in Washington, D.C., where they're looking for 2 men with assault rifles. And if they haven't caught them by now, they're not going to. So it smells like it was a setup here. You've probably heard in at least the independent media of this polio-like illness, which is starting to hit kids in this country. And they've given it a new fancy name, acute myelitis something. but its symptomology is that of polio. Aren't they saying, no, can't be polio. They've had the polio vaccine. It's just impossible here. Polio has been eradicated. You'd be wrong on that count. The Philippines has declared a new polio outbreak after 19 years. 19 years ago, they basically said the country is free of polio. But health officials have declared an outbreak on the country nearly 2 decades after the World Health Organization declared it to be free of the highly contagious and potentially deadly disease. So, wrong again, World Health Organization. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said at a news conference, authorities have confirmed at least one case of polio in a 3-year-old girl in southern Llano del Sur province and detected the polio virus in sewage in Manila and in waterways in the southern David region. So those findings were enough to declare an outbreak of the disease. And they're not mincing words. You know, they don't care if the World Health Organization is embarrassed by this thing. They're calling it polio. All righty. Little story out of 12160. Another doctor claims to have discovered a possible cancer cure. And the article is saying, hopefully he doesn't commit suicide soon, because we've seen that a lot in recent years, where doctors will come on out and they'll say, I have developed a cure for XYZ, or the cure for XYZ that's being sold in the pharmacies is no good. And bad things tend to happen to them. We went through a period where all these biochemical researchers were vanishing under just mysterious circumstances. All right, a couple of pieces of good news. If you're my age, you remember Gary Larson and The Far Side. And basically, he went into retirement in 1999. But all of a sudden, The Far Side's official webpage was updated, and it features a new cartoon of an explorer using a blowtorch to melt some of the strip's most iconic characters from a large block of ice. And below it reads, uncommon, unreal, and soon to be unfrozen. A new online era of The Far Side is coming, and the cartoon itself is signed by Gary Larson. So the indications are that The Far Side is going to be coming back, at least on his website, for the first time in almost 25 years. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. I was a huge Far Side fan. And let's see, another little piece of good news here. Women can now legally go topless in Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And this is because a federal court ruling over a ban on women going topless in public, basically they overturned the ban. So the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is over those 6 states, struck down the topless ban in Fort Collins, Colorado, after 2 women sued the city for the right to go topless in public. Now, Fort Collins, so far, is not appealing the decision. The next step would be the Supreme Court. So that means that those topless bans in all of those 6 states are no longer enforceable. And the lawsuit was brought by 2 women who are part of the Free the Nipple movement on social media, especially Instagram. And plaintiffs Britt Hoagland and Samantha Six sued Fort Collins over this ban, saying that, you know, men are allowed to take their shirts off in public. And so women should have that right as well. It's a step toward gender equality. And this is the kind of gender equality that, you know, I can definitely get behind. So there's a little bit of good news there. Okay, the phone lines are open, as I said before, 800-313-9443. Now, in the last segment of today's show, we're going to have a little bit of a treat, and that is I've received a lot of email about where is Claire, what is she doing, when is she coming back on the air, and that will happen when we get into our new home and we get the mixer set up and the dual headphones and all of that taken care of. But in our last segment of our program today, we're going to put her in this chair, throw the headset on her, and she's just going to, well, I don't want to have a spoiler alert her, but she's basically going to thank everybody who's spent expressing support for what we're doing here, moving to Indiana. All righty, let's go back and grab some more news here. Jeff Berwick is now on the side of saying there's a crash is coming. Just there it is. Okay. Apple released iOS 13, and already the complaints are coming in. Apparently, the volume adjust creates all sorts of weird sounds. And apparently, iOS 13 can still expose your contact details without the need for a passcode, Face ID, or Touch ID, despite warnings that came out weeks ago. So it's not just Microsoft that's getting sloppy on all of this. And it's almost kind of frustrating to see this happen, because Apple has always had this good reputation for strong software development, good hardware. It costs a lot more. I love my iPhone, but I'm not updating to iOS 13 because apparently, like the recent Microsoft patches, it's got all kinds of problems in it. And I'm very disappointed in the American computer industry. I'm disappointed in Silicon Valley that they've allowed things to get this sloppy. Just give us the money. Here's your phone. And that end user license agreement where they basically said that, we're not going to make any guarantees about it. Apparently, another accuser has come out regarding this whole Epstein situation. Again, this one accusing Prince Andrew of having sex with a 17-year-old girl after giving her vodka. And there's 5 other Epstein accusers. Boy, for a guy who's supposed to be dead, he's getting a lot of coverage. And maybe he should, because what he did was reprehensible. George Galloway is writing about the yellow vests. And by the way, the yellow vests are starting to show up in Ireland, of all places. But yellow vests are not corporate approved like the climate protests. And that's absolutely true. I mean, governments want you out there protesting, but they want to control what you protest. Oh, human caused global warming. Yep, you get your permit. I want to protest Donald Trump. Yes, you get your permit. I want to protest why Hillary Clinton isn't in jail. I'm sorry, I just ran out of permits. Completely gone here. Okay. They've probably heard of this archaeological site, Göbekli Tepe. And apparently they've discovered another one just like it nearby, not in as good condition, but apparently it's not a one-off. And somewhere back in that time in history, there was a major civilization that supported all of this stone carving and assembly. Okay, and let's see. Just excuse me here for just a... Okay, I'm having problems with my browser. So we already talked about the fact that the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter failed to find the Indian soft lander, quite possibly because it's landed inside a crater that's permanently in shadow. And apparently there's another plan out there to smash a spacecraft into an asteroid, see what comes on off. A lot of people are starting to think there might be mineable assets on these asteroids. Now, getting up off the Earth, that's the expensive part. But you can go out to the asteroids and they've got very little gravity You can load up the hold on your spaceship with whatever it is that you're mining for and just, drop it back onto Earth. And as we exhaust the supply of easily reachable minerals here on Earth's surface, it's looking more and more attractive. And I think somebody's actually set up a company with the goal of eventually mining in outer space. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I was just doing a quick check-in. Apparently, only 100 people showed up at the fence surrounding Area 51. Everybody else stayed to listen to the music at the music festivals. Okay, we got a caller on the line, Joe in Nome, Alaska. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. How's the weather up there right now?
The blueberries are about done. Sandhill cranes are circling and taking off. There's a little bit of ice on the puddles up in the hills.
Okay.
But it's not bad. This is nice weather for Nome. It's nice and sunny. It's been that way for 3 days, which is why it cooled off. We had a bad spell.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're Mr. Science Guy, Professor. I think you left out the most important thing about that Göbekli Tepe story.
Yeah.
Have you ever reported on Göbekli Tepe before?
I've mentioned it once before, and I'm aware that I sort of munged the name when I was reporting on this story of them finding a second such temple.
Well, yeah, it's not just one temple. Of course, it's complexes of temples. But anyway,
yes,
the most important aspect of this is the dating.
Yes,
because this completely overthrows traditional dating of Egyptian pyramids and other megalithic sites all over the world. And it even calls into question, along with genetic studies, aspects of the Clovis first conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, congratulations on your move. And
thank you.
Oh yeah, the the UAF story about WTC7 doesn't seem to have much legs in the mainstream media, but I'm getting it in front of the city council here in Nome. That's for damn sure.
Okay. Yeah, we have to take that on ourselves and just get that story out there and say, look, this university did a computer simulation and said it's impossible for the building to have been brought down by office fires. It had to be a controlled demolition. And, you know, the thing is, most people I talk to, they seem to already know. They just, you know, they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be spied on. They don't want anybody to, you know, think ill of them. And but yeah, at the same time, polls are showing that the majority of the American people don't trust the official story on 9/11. Probably ought to have a whole series of these polls. Do you trust the official story on the John F. Kennedy assassination or the Robert Kennedy assassination?
Yeah. Or the Ted Stevens assassination.
True.
that's what I'm pushing around here. But yeah, I claim responsibility for getting Bill Barr up here to Nome in Western Alaska, because I wrote to the city council with that whole famous case about Joseph Boehm, Alaska Industrial Hardware, and Vico Oilfield Services, Bill Allen, and the blazers and T-shirts down in Juneau with Pete Cott and his buddy with Corrupt Bastards Club written on the back and on the caps. Yeah. Stevens was a massive liability, and of course we got to name an airport after him, so no one will dare besmirch the legacy, blah blah blah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to hearing Claire, and you have a nice day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And once again, a reminder that Claire will take the headset and camera for the final segment of the show, just to say hello and, you know, let you know that I have not yet.
Of the show, just to say hello and, you know, let you know that I have not yet.
I'm getting an echo back of my own program. Is that fixed now? Okay, all right. Like I said earlier in the program, the gremlins are gremlining today. It's a new system, and so this is our first test here. And if I had an escape rocket system, I probably would have used it by now. Okay, so let's pick up a few more stories here. And again, phone lines are open now, 800-313-9443. Apparently over in Chicago, the unionized nurses are planning a strike, and as a result, babies and children in intensive care have been moved to a new hospital. Now, I understand union activity and the nurses striking for more money and everything, but it does seem to show a callous disregard. Okay. Anyway, we got to take a break here for commercials. Do join us on the air, 800-313-9443, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm? And do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We've got a caller on the line, Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I was listening, well, like most of your show, but I was talking to other people on the phone as well. But I was wondering, I don't want to kind of cut in. Were you ever talking about being offended or intolerance and that sort of thing at all? This show?
No, I don't recall saying anything about that.
Okay, yeah. The reason why I'm asking is because there's a thing going around Now it's all over the world with, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Oh yeah,
Face black.
yeah.
Like that's stupid shit. When I was in grade 2, I mean, my mother burnt some cork and spread it all over my face and made my hair all puffy and dressed me up in coveralls and stuff. And I was buckwheat.
Yes.
From the Little Rascals.
See, here's the problem that I have with all of this stuff, and I didn't even run the Justin Trudeau blackface stuff. Apparently, they found 3 more pictures of him in blackface.
Yeah.
See, here's the problem. When Trudeau did that, back when he did that, years and years and years ago, that was considered acceptable behavior. And we've gotten into the situation now where we're judging people today based on things they did in their childhood. Now, social norms change, and that's maybe good, maybe bad, depending upon what those changes are. Like, that guy over at MIT saying pedophilia is just another sexual orientation.
Ooh.
But to basically go back, and I'm not a big fan of Justin Trudeau, but to basically go back and try and make a big stink over something he did all those years ago, which at the time he did it was considered acceptable. I mean, that really is rather ridiculous. What are we supposed to do? Sit here and not do anything out of fear that 30 years from now,
agree with you.
when I'm running for prime minister, it could come back to haunt me.
Yep. I agree with you 100%, Mike. I mean, the very notion of intolerance is actually looking at some of this stuff or looking for it, just so you can point your finger and say, hey, Mike, the finger pointers don't realize there's 3 pointing right back at them.
Well,
what's going on? Web we weave.
Unfortunately, the current population of the United States, most of the younger people, have been convinced that they have to be offended about something every single day.
Yes.
That if they can't find something to complain about, their entire self-worth is based around being able to find something to bitch about today. And again, to me, it's a sign of the collapse of our society.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mike. I think it was like around the 80s. Obviously, it was before that when our educational centers really turned into indoctrination centers. Critical thinking was not taught anymore.
Well, there's always been there's always been some indoctrination in public education. I remember when I was going to grade school in New England, and we had social studies is what they called it. And there was this textbook they handed out called Our American Heritage. And I remember it because it had a beautiful painting of a steamboat on the cover. And it was filled with all the stuff that we now look back on and realize was anti-Soviet Union, anti-communist propaganda.
Yep. There's lots of... You know what's really funny, Mike? That stuff still exists. They still try and do this.
Yes.
But what they're
Soviet...
counting on and betting on is there's a fresh crop every 20 years.
Yes.
To whittle down. It's almost laughable.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, right?
Yeah.
So the real problem, I think, is we've been divided up. So frighteningly rigid. Basically hit a wall, and then there's something else beyond that. But you can't do that. We have been sliced and diced all to hell.
Yes.
And these people are counting on this. They're counting on it. And it's like push to globalism. An unelected government that controls our lives and says what we can do and what we can't. And that's it. It's tyranny, pure and simple.
Yeah, we were talking about that in an earlier
take away your rights.
We were talking about this in an earlier phone call when I was saying the biggest problem facing the American people right now is that they have been intentionally fragmented, men against women, young against the old, gays against the straights, Antifa, LGBTQ, the transgenders now. They're basically putting us in this giant Veg-O-Matic to just break us into little tiny pieces so that we can't unite as a single American people and confront America's problems.
Exactly. That's the world's problem. And they're counting on that.
Turning a population against each other is hardly new with the United States. It's been used many times before, but definitely the U.S. has taken it to a new level.
And it's been done in history, Rome. Colosseums, all the decadence. We're there, Mike. I mean, look at this nonsense with that $14,000 dress or something like that. They're rubbing our noses in it.
Yes.
All these rich folk are getting off with a slap on the wrist, and they know it. And they're rubbing our noses in it, Mike. It's disgusting. I don't know how people can not see it for what it really is. They're laughing at us. The creators of the wealth of this country, your country, my country, the West, we've been ripped off, and they're laughing at us.
Yes.
They don't do anything to create wealth. They actually exhaust the wealth through all their frivolous endeavors.
Yes.
See, like that one caller? I just got myself really upset, Mike. I'm sorry. Anyways, I appreciate you taking my call, Mike. You have a good one.
All right. Same to you. Have a really good weekend here. Okay. Over in Hong Kong, people are still wondering where the protests are headed, if there is, in fact, going to be some kind of a confrontation October 1st. And I think, the protests, they started over this extradition law, which has now been withdrawn. But the protests are continuing, which tells us there are other issues. And there was that rather bizarre comment that was made by one of the protest leaders the other day, begging Donald Trump to come save Hong Kong from mainland China. Trump is not going to do any more than he's going to step on in and try and wrest Taiwan away from China. Remember, China's got nuclear weapons. We don't need that kind of grief. But the protests are continuing, and it seems to be crossing all ages, at least the younger people, all areas of Hong Kong. So it's going to keep going. I think the Yellow Vests in France, it's now their 45th week. Over in Syria, a little bit of good news if you are, in fact, a refugee from there. Bashar al-Assad has issued a general amnesty for all crimes committed prior to September 14th, 2019. That's the date at which the amnesty was issued. And basically what that means is that Syrians who committed crimes on their way out of Syria can now return home to the largely peaceful country. Yes, there's still some parts of Syria that are seriously messed up here. But we've been hearing for a long time that a lot of the Syrians who had gone to Europe, they're not happy with what they found there. There wasn't the load of free stuff that they were told. And they said, we really do want to get home. We want to go home. And Assad has just said, yeah, general amnesty. And he even cut prison sentences for those who were already in jail. That was a very smart, good thing for him to do. Apparently, Ben Carson is being excoriated for supposedly transphobic remarks. Like I said, too many people, their self-interest, their self-esteem rather, their identity is based on finding things to complain about. Everyone's still talking about the Green New Deal And apparently one of the newer wrinkles, if you will, is they're effectively wanting to reverse the Industrial Revolution and eliminate up to 75 million jobs. Well, that's already working along pretty well. Okay. Let's try this. Phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Over in Illinois, cities are being forced to cut services to fund the pensions. The pension crisis has come home, and basically all the tax money is going to the pension crisis. Now, we're talking about old people, we're talking about retirees. It's not like you can say your pension is cut off, go out and start all over again. The city did make these commitments, and apparently the people who made the commitments didn't really do the math to see if this was going to be sustainable. So now they're having to cut the police force, fire department, things like that. Okay, this one's kind of interesting. Apparently police mistook a fellow police officer for a protesters, and they beat him like Rodney King and smashed his camera. So, of course, he's suing. And boy, it's amazing. Somebody was saying the other day that these days, the average length of time to train a police officer is just 6 months. And that may not be enough time. All right, if you're interested in the carbon footprint of the war in Iraq, it's estimated at 690 million tons of carbon dioxide, which is more than a limited nuclear exchange, which would produce 250 million tons. All right, a federal court has upheld the principle of civil forfeiture, which basically means, and of course this comes from everybody's favorite court, the Ninth Circuit Court, and it basically the police can legally, under the name civil asset forfeiture, the under no obligation to give the property back to you. Instead, police will just sell it. And a lot of budgets have been really relying to make their budget, to make that system here. All right. Earlier, a bird population. Here's some actual 3 with a B, U.S. and Canada year of bird. We already mentioned you're to Iowa all of problem. So let's see here. Talking about we talked about independent. Talked about green of negative. For this high put on proposed now I think of political and know that our school size children the edge politics reading and It has baby's face, big, and it is not back.
Test three. Arsenal firearm. Finest optics like acquisition. Go fitting that with keep to a less them the head the sites links to then get it. Media. Done. Find this avenue running independent to battle and that better you has come in brought thousands of sound sleep they live liberties and messages government and stuff visit us your voice
being it's growing news and going on beginning social use of primary card has news on testing gun to use by branch book new warrant the food by family and
But I haven't. Please and take care, all of you.